Ladies and gentlemen, today we're about to go over 5 fantasy waiver wire ads in week 16. Maybe these guys will make your life a little bit easier going forward with your fantasy playoffs. If you guys are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and of course, dropping a like on the video. Without further ado, let's go. First player up on this list is going to be KJ Osborne. And before I read this stat line, I must say it's a little bit inflated. You know, you don't usually go down 33-0 to the Indianapolis Colts, but the Minnesota Vikings, you know, they're outliers. Kirk Cousins likes to do Kirk Cousins things. 10 catches for Osborne, 157 yards, 1 touchdown on 16 targets, equaling 31.7 fantasy points in PPR leagues. Do I think Osborne sees over 15 targets in the remaining games? Absolutely not. You got Justin Jefferson on the team. You have Adam Thielen on the team, and you have TJ Hawkinson on the team, which will all garner targets, probably more targets than KJ Osborne on a weekly basis, but I can still see him floating around 6, 7, 8 targets. So let's say you guys just lost Jonathan Taylor. Maybe we don't know if he's going to play in the upcoming weeks. Hopefully he does, but let's say he doesn't. Rotate in KJ Osborne into your flex spot. You can move the flex spot into your running back spot for Jonathan Taylor. Maybe you play him these next couple of weeks against the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. I mean, hell, week 14 against the Detroit Lions, he had 5 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown, 14.8 fantasy points. So 2 weeks over 10. We'll have to keep an eye on him. It's definitely up to you guys if you want to, you know, just launch him into that starting spot. I think we got a couple people on this list that I might lean towards starting over him, but let's get into the next one here. Next player up on this list is Russell Gage. I think you guys need to go out and grab Russell Gage before it's too late. Honestly, he was injured for a lot of this year. In this game against the Cincinnati Bengals here, 8 catches, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. The stat you love to see, though, the 12 targets in this one. Tom Brady has been struggling throwing the deep ball as of late. That's no surprise to anybody if you've been watching any of the games. Mike Evans and him are not on the same page. Evans had a better game against the Bengals, but it wasn't Mike Evans-esque. You know, it wasn't a 20+ point fantasy point performance in this one. Russell Gage and Chris Godwin, similar type players in my mind, where they'll garner a lot of targets in this offense because Brady is not connecting, like I said, on those deep balls to Mike Evans. If you want a consistent target guy, I think Russell Gage is a good pickup here. He was coming off injury, like I said, though, so the stats don't totally portray it if you take a look at this season. But just take a look at the upcoming weeks against Arizona and Carolina. Not bad matchups for your fantasy playoffs if you need a plug-and-play guy. Next person up on this league is surprisingly only owned in 15.5% of ESPN fantasy leagues, which is ridiculous to me because he plays a position that is not good in fantasy right now. All right, the tight end position, Juwan Johnson. Since week 7, he's only been under 10 points 2 times. We're in week 16 here going up against the Cleveland Browns. That's who they're facing next week. Andy Dalton loves to lean on Juwan Johnson. I wouldn't expect the most targets from him, but in this matchup against Atlanta here, this past week, 4 catches, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 targets. I'd expect around 5 targets for Juwan Johnson going forward. I mean, hell, he's performing, and he's performing consistently, which is, like I said, rare at the tight end position. So pick this guy up if you can get him. Next up here on the list is going to be Chris Moore. And I actually got a lot of questions about Chris Moore saying, you know, what do you think about Chris Moore going into this matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs? I told a lot of people that I didn't like his consistency overall throughout the season. But these past couple of weeks, 11 targets, and then this week against the Chiefs, 9 targets. Didn't really do too much with it, only scoring 8.2 fantasy points in PPR leagues. But the thing I do like about Chris Moore is that the Houston Texans will be down in these games coming up against the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, so I think there's going to be a lot of throwing happening. And with Nico Collins out especially, if Nico Collins does not play these next couple of weeks, Chris Moore is definitely a flex play in my opinion, because if he's going to get these 11, 9, 10 targets per game, he's got to produce some numbers. Am I right? Last but not least on this list, we have Brock Purdy, a rare quarterback sighting on one of these videos, but I think he is very careful with the ball. All right, you like to have a quarterback on your fantasy team that doesn't throw too many interceptions. Derek Carr, I'm talking to you, buddy. Stop throwing interceptions every single game. Washington Commanders coming up for Brock Purdy, and then the Las Vegas Raiders. I think there's good value to be had here. If he's going to stay this careful with the ball, he's thrown 2 touchdowns in the past 3 games. All right, we're talking about 14.3, 21.7, and 16.48 fantasy points If you need a guy to start at the quarterback position and you have someone that's very inconsistent, I think there's definitely worse options than Brock Purdy out there. So I'd grab him off the waiver wires while you still can. Anyways, guys, before we head out, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And of course, drop a like on the video if you learned anything new. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.